The news spread quickly, even before the media had time to prepare the headline. Jungkook has done something that shook the industry. But what? No one knows for sure. But one thing is clear, the world suddenly turned its head, and HYBE began to feel that she was losing control of her brightest star. This was the beginning of everything, when Jungkook's name again became the epicenter of a global earthquake. When the world is busy with new trends and collaborations, Jungkook comes up with something that seems simple, a statement, an action, maybe even just a small gesture, but the effect is explosive. The US media reacted quickly. Major outlets such as Billboard, Rolling Stone, to Variety monitor his every move. Within hours, the hashtag number "What did Jungkook do?" was trending globally on X, Twitter, with millions of tweets speculating on what's really going on. Some suspect Jungkook is feuding with his agency. Some accuse HYBE of withholding something. And some believe this is all a well-crafted strategy. But where did it all start? The answer is hidden behind a dynamic that has so far been rarely seen. The relationship between a superstar who grows into a global icon and a major agency trying to maintain control over a narrative that is starting to slip out of their hands. Jungkook is no longer just the youngest member of BTS. He has already transformed into a separate entity, an independent artist who, without intending it, is able to make giant entertainment systems tremble. As HYBE tries to set the rhythm, Jungkook moves at his own pace. The emergence of rumors about something Jungkook hurt is not just because of gossip, but rather a reflection of a major change in the power of the music industry itself. An internal source quoted by the Korean outlet said HYBE was shocked by Jungkook's latest move, a move they have not yet given the green light, but which has already come under worldwide scrutiny. Maybe it's about his new music. Maybe it's also about a personal decision that made the media react wildly. But behind it all, there is something deeper, HYBE's fear of Jungkook's freedom. When an artist can no longer be controlled, how can a company of that size survive? Meanwhile, BTS's own reaction was no less interesting. Some members were called incredulous by what they saw, not in a negative context, but because Jungkook's changes felt so fast, so bold, perhaps even too big to follow. They know their younger brother is always ambitious, but now Jungkook seems to break the boundaries of the industry itself. There's a moment where Jin, Jimin, and Taehyung are even rumored to be talking about this move in private, not in the form of an argument, but admiration and concern mixed into one. Because they know every time Jungkook moves, the world will shift a little. And indeed, that's exactly what happened. America began to tremble, as many online media called it there. They were surprised by the impact created by one small update from Jungkook, be it photos, lyrics, or cryptic statements on his personal platform. In an era where the public reads the meaning of every emoji, every sentence break, and every hand gesture, Jungkook knows full well how powerful his influence can be. But did he intentionally use it to flick agencies or the media? Or is this just the effect of a person living honestly with himself? As the rumors got hotter, industry analysts began to raise their voices. One of them said, HYBE is not afraid of losing Jungkook. They are afraid of losing control of the narrative about Jungkook. This sentence resonated in various international forums. Because if there's one Korean artist who can now rival American media control, it's Jungkook, a young artist whose solo career is now bigger than any label. But what makes this story interesting is not just the drama between artists and agencies, but how the global community interprets Jungkook's silence. He doesn't explain, he doesn't write at length. but his silence felt louder than any statement. Fans interpreted the silence as a subtle form of resistance. Kara Jungkook said, "I know what you guys are thinking, but I don't need to explain." And as always, the internet exploded. HYBE held an emergency internal meeting after US media began using the words rift and disagreement in their reports. They know that if this narrative continues to grow unchecked, the company's image could be threatened. But how can they withstand a storm when that storm is Jungkook himself? US media outlets such as Entertainment Tonight and The Hollywood Reporter even wrote opinions on how Jungkook might be the first Asian artist to dare to take over his narrative from a major corporation. This is no longer just an HYBE entertainment issue. It's a reflection of a new era where artists are no longer a product, but an independent force that can shake up the economy of the global entertainment industry. When the public wondered, what really hurt Jungkook? The answer may not be a person, but rather a system that has held control for too long. Perhaps what he hurts is the comfort of executives who are used to arranging the steps of their artist's career like chess. Jungkook, with all his spontaneity and courage, seemed to flip the board. He didn't wait for his turn, he created a new game. And therein lies HYBE's fear. In one silent step, Jungkook showed that he no longer needed permission to shine. And for the American media, it's a rare phenomenon, an Asian star who is not only idolized, but also in full control of the story about herself. The world stared, HYBE anxious, BTS brooding, and the US media shaking. Because they realized if one person can change the course of the global conversation just by being there, then a new era of the entertainment industry has begun, and the name that triggered it is Jungkook. That night, the entire Korean entertainment media seemed to stop breathing. Not because of scandals, not because of the usual ridiculous rumors circulating on the internet, but because one thing that was never expected to come from the figure who has always been considered the golden boy of BTS, Jungkook. The world wondered, what was really going on behind the magnificent glass walls of the HYBE building that had been looking solid and shiny? Industry insiders know that HYBE is scared. It means that something very big is shaking. But HYBE's fear is not because of money, not because of stocks. They are afraid of losing something more valuable, trust, and Jungkook himself. As this news began to spread, small voices among HYBE staff and some media figures began to be heard. Some said Jungkook was staying away. Others called him too American now, while others in quivering tones said, he's protecting something. What is meant, no one can be sure. But all agreed, ever since Jungkook began collaborating with major labels in the US and performing at various international events, there has been a slowly created distance. A distance that cannot be bridged with just words like team or family. The camera caught him, a silent expression behind a smile, blank stare during a group interview. Fans watched it, dissecting every little moment from the hand gestures, the way Jungkook answered questions, to the gazes of fellow BTS members. Everything seemed changed. And oddly enough, the change is not like a loss of spirit, but like a person who knows something that is not yet time to talk about. Then the rumors began to explode. Some say Jungkook disagrees with HYBE's new direction of starting to over-commercialize BTS. There were also US media reports highlighting invisible tensions between HYBE America's global management and Jungkook's personal decisions on his projects. The American media called it the creative fracture, a creative split, a refined term to describe the actual deep conflict between idealism and business strategy. But is it really just a matter of business? Or is there a deeper wound there? This is the moment where everyone starts to question. If Jungkook scares HYBE, BTS is confused, and the American media trembles, then there is something much bigger than just a contract or music. It may seem strange, but many of the big stories in the entertainment world start small, from one misinterpreted expression, from one cold gesture, from one silence in the middle of an interview. And that's how this story began. Jungkook, at a global photo shoot with an American brand, smiled faintly when asked about BTS' future after the military service. But that smile looks different. Unlike his usual sincere and energetic, this time his smile was stiff, a little restrained, as if behind him there was something he wanted to say but was stopped by the realization that the camera was recording. Korean media immediately wrote it as Jungkook looked tired, but the American media caught a different vibe. Jungkook seemed unfettered. This is where the big speculation starts. American entertainment analysts attribute this to the fact that Jungkook began to often work directly with an independent creative team from Los Angeles without full supervision from HYBE. It has more control from the concept to the style to the distribution of its digital content. And for many observers, it is a signal. Jungkook already has a foothold outside the HYBE structure. HYBE herself knew how dangerous the situation was. They can't ban, but they also know if Jungkook feels constrained, he could at any time change the map of global K-pop power. This is where the tension begins to be felt, like two poles that are equally strong but moving in different directions. On the one hand, HYBE wants to maintain BTS's dominance as a single brand. On the other hand, Jungkook wants to evolve not just as an idol, but as an artist who is free to set direction. The fans saw it mixed. Some feel proud, some worry, some begin to suspect. Is this the beginning of the emotional distance between BTS members? It all came to a head when a major American media outlet released a report about BTS's changing direction of global promotion and how one of the members began negotiating with the US agency directly. Although no name was given, everyone knew who it was. Jungkook. The article instantly went viral, was translated into various languages, and caused an incredible stir. Fans around the world began to question, is HYBE really supporting Jungkook's journey as a global artist, or trying to control him to stay within the limits of Korean Idol? But what made the world tremble was not just the content of the article, but the timing of its publication just hours after HYBE's official statement about BTS's solidity and unity was released. Both felt like conflicting messages, and the media did not waste the opportunity. Something is broken inside HYBE's system, Variety wrote. One member started going too far to control, Rolling Stone added. HYBE declined to comment, but his silence is precisely the loudest signal. Financial analysts began to note a small but significant drop in HYBE's share price over the next few days. That is, fear exists not only in the boardroom but also in the market. HYBE is trying to calm the growing storm, while Jungkook seems to be getting calmer. He still looks professional, still smiles, still performs in an elegant style, but there is something in his eyes, something that makes the audience feel that he no longer speaks only as part of BTS, but as himself. For some fans, this is the most confusing time in BTS's history. They love this group, but they also know that each member has a different path. But this time, it felt different. Some fans began to notice that the members' reactions to Jungkook's solo projects were cautious. They were supportive, but their expressions weren't. When Jungkook performed on the international stage, V only wrote one short comment. RM gave praise, but without further interaction. Jin and Jimin were silent. Suga, as usual, kept his distance with neutral words. Observers call this a sign of emotional fatigue, emotional exhaustion that arises when professional and personal relationships begin to overlap. But is it really out of jealousy? Or precisely because they know something that the public does not yet know? HYBE may be afraid of losing control, but BTS themselves are afraid of losing meaning. They don't want BTS to be a symbol of an industry that only moves because of business strategy. While Jungkook, perhaps for the first time, realized that his small steps to assert himself as an artist actually made everyone around him falter. That's the paradox. The more he is honest with himself, the more insecure the world around him becomes. And this is where the most reflective moment comes. What did Jungkook really hurt? HYBE, BTS, or himself? The most striking of all this is the reaction of the American media. Those who usually look at K-pop from the point of view of the global entertainment industry this time seemed surprised by Jungkook's emotional maturity in the face of a situation of this magnitude. No controversial statements, no emotional outbursts, no comment wars, only silence, but deafening silence. The media write it as controlled silence, deliberate silence as a form of power. Every word from Jungkook could shake up the market, trigger headlines, or even change HYBE's global strategy. And his silence is a statement in itself. Fans around the world are waiting, but the more they wait, the more mysterious Jungkook's figure feels. Is he planning something? Or is he calming the storm within himself? What is clear, that night, for the first time, even the US media trembled. They realized one important thing: Jungkook's power no longer came from fandom, from music, or from labels, but from complete control over himself. And that's the scariest thing for anyone trying to set it up.